Everybody to the waiting room, and we can start taping. Are we ready to go?
Yes, we are.
Great. Thanks, Lizzie. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the San Mateo County Harbor District regular meeting of December 16th, 2020. Melanie, would you do roll call, please?
Commissioner Ryring,
Here.
Commissioner Chang Crawley,
Present.
Commissioner Matoush,
Here.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Here.
Commissioner Brennan.
Here. Before we, so everybody seems to be here today. All the commissioners are here. And before we begin, it is my great pleasure today to report on the San Mateo County Harbor District's accomplishments this year. Harbor District responsibilities and efforts in 2020 were focused, as always, on the San Mateo County's commercial fishing industry at Pillar Point Harbor, operating Oyster Point Marina and the ferry terminal in South San Francisco, funding infrastructure improvements at both our locations, championing clean water efforts, providing ongoing water rescue operations, and facilitating environmental protections along our portions of San Mateo County's coasts. Though this year brought budget and operational challenges given COVID, we've been able to continue moving all the business of the district forward and to keep our staff and tenants safe. We were lucky enough to begin the year 2020 with our new general manager, Jim Pruitt, at the helm. Especially considering what came shortly after the year began, we've been extremely fortunate to have had a person of his experience and stature to guide the district and help us ensure that our productivity, responsiveness to the public, and safety were assured for San Mateo County residents and visitors to our beautiful coast. Working during COVID caused the Harbor District to call upon every resource at our disposal. Like all municipalities and public agencies across the globe, our staff have largely been working from home during the pandemic. And that itself held the possibility of complicating productivity. However, throughout the year, our work has been carried out seamlessly, which is a testament to each member of our staff, and especially our leadership team of John Morin, Julie Van Hoff, Chris Tibby, and Jim Merlo. I thank you all. As we have employees at our marinas who meet daily with the public, our agency has had the more unusual task of making sure their safety and wellness is also assured. The policies that Mr. Pruitt presented to us, the Harbor Board, in that regard, were important and effective. And I want to thank him, all of our harbor personnel, and John Morin again for the challenges you navigated so well with regard to public safety. And to our rescue personnel, a special shout out, as always, to thank you for your dedication and bravery. Policies that we instituted during COVID included leave policies, bonuses to essential workers, rent forbearance, instituting specialized restroom cleaning, and when shelter-in-place orders were instituted for the county, a call for operation restrictions. When the CZU lightning fires brought evacuees into our area, we called an emergency meeting to discuss allowing evacuees to park their self-contained RVs in our parking lot. We were gratified to ensure COVID-19 protocols could be followed while providing a safe place for victims displaced from their homes during this frightening time. Staff has been instrumental as well in ensuring that our remote Harbor Board meetings have been open and transparent so that the public's business can be done effectively and efficiently. Special thanks to Lizzie Zarowski and Melanie Haddon for helping us keep our meetings running smoothly on Zoom. The silver lining to having virtual meetings has been increased participation from the public. So thank you to the public as well for caring about your Harbor District and participating in our meetings. Some key initiatives that have been completed or moved forward this year are renovations at the Harbor Master's office at Pillar Point, the public fishing pier, significant electrical upgrades at Oyster Point, the Living Shoreline project at Pillar Point, dredging and nourishing Surfers Beach, improving green spaces and adding bathrooms at Surfers Beach, and water quality mitigation efforts with the help of the San Mateo County or San Mateo Resource Conservation District. We've also kept other capital improvement projects, ADA compliance, lease negotiations, eelgrass studies, and eventual dredging progressing. The district understands the challenges of supporting economic development while maintaining environmental sustainability along our precious, delicate coastlines. We are currently working to ensure adequate funding for infrastructure projects at both Pillar Point and Oyster Point marinas, including dock replacements. Renovating Johnson Pier is a primary concern and focus at Pillar Point, and guarding against sea level rise, king tides, and flooding are paramount for Oyster Point Marina. As a member of the district's Oyster Point Liaison Committee, I appreciate the collaborative partnership we have with the City of South San Francisco and the fact that we share concerns about these issues. Responsibility to San Mateo County taxpayers is a critical component of our work at the Harbor District, as nearly 65% of our operating revenue comes from property taxes. So I'm very proud to note that Harbor District finances continue to be healthy, and we were even able to extraordinarily approve a reserve policy this year. Because of the strong financial health of the district, we were able to reprioritize our budgets to make sure that we had funds available for emergency use and subsequently adjust our budgets to focus on priorities. In addition, we have once again this year earned the Certificate of Transparency from the California Special District Association. The year ahead is exciting. Earlier this autumn, the board negotiated and finalized a 3-year contract with General Manager Jim Pruitt, and we look forward to continuing our good work together during 2021. Though we have faced quite a few unpredictable situations this year, I've enjoyed my work and the relationships I've formed here immensely. Thank you for your support as we navigated unprecedented crises in 2020. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve as president this year. So we have a quorum for our meeting, and we have new staff introductions today. Jim Merlo, or is this Jim Pruitt?
It's me. Good afternoon, President Ryring and all the rest of the commissioners. I'd like to introduce our 2 new employees here at Oyster Point today. We have one harbor worker, that's Antonio Conte. He comes to us from the City of San Carlos Department of Public Works. He's been with us for about 3 weeks now. A great hire. We're excited to have him. Look forward to the future with him. He was a unanimous decision as a hire from our interview board. The other employee that we have is a Deputy Harbor Master A. His name is Zach Pringle. He comes to us from 8 years experience with the lifeguard program for working for the state lifeguards as a summer lifeguard. Great great hire, another unanimous decision from the interview board to hire this young man. And they're both on today, and if they'd like to say a few words, that'd be great.
Great, go right ahead. You will have to unmute. There you go.
Thank you. Well, I just want to say I'm grateful to be a part of the team, and I think we have great leadership, and it's a beautiful harbor, and you know, I'm looking forward to working here and climbing the ladder and just enjoying the public and taking care of this place. So it's I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
That's great. Thank you very much. Welcome, Antonio.
Thank you.
Is Zach on as well?
Yes, he has his phone.
Sent him an unmute request.
All right, guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, guys. So, yeah, I'm Zach. First week here over at Oyster Point. Great spot. I've been surrounded by just great crew, very welcoming, mainly getting trained by Jim Smith and Matt. You know, I couldn't ask for a better work environment. So I'm just really happy with the decision I made. Really, you know, just like I said, grateful to be a part of the Harbor District. You know, over here at Oyster Point, there's a lot going on, as you guys know. So first week, just kind of learn the lay of the land, you know, all about the operations, everything. And that's just going to be a continuous thing. So just looking forward to the future. You know, I've been meeting the tenants out here. Everyone seems really happy, and there's just so much to learn. So thanks for supporting us, guys, and really looking forward to, yeah, the future here, you know, just making this a career. So just want to say thank you, and, you know, thanks for being there for us.
Well, welcome, Zach and Antonio. Thank you so much for joining our team at Oyster Point.
Thank you.
All right, if you don't mind, you guys get back to work now.
Yes, sir. Have a great day.
Nice to
All right.
have you on with us.
Bye now.
We're going to go to public comments next. Melanie, I'll give you a few moments to share the timer screen with us. While I'll note that the public may directly address the Board of Harbor Commissioners for a limit of 2 minutes on any item of public interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the San Mateo County Harbor District that is not on the regular agenda. Melanie, just let me know when you're ready.
Sorry, I was muted. I think we're good.
Okay, great. All right, I see some hands up. I'll start with Brent Turner.
President Ryrie, I'm having some technical difficulties. If you could just give me 1 moment to unmute.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Brent Turner, you have been unmuted for comment.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yeah, I hear you.
Great. Hello, President Ryring and commissioners, staff. My name is Brent Turner, and I just wanted to check in today to mention that Sabrina Brennan is no longer going to be exiting the commission, and I wanted to thank her for her years of service to the community and to the county. And I'm not sure, I just sort of came on here and didn't check the agenda, but I don't know if that's later and I'm out of turn, but if not, hopefully I just wanted to give my appreciation on behalf of many in the community that appreciate her good efforts for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. Thank you, Brent. We'll go to John Ullum.
Thank you, President Mary. Sabrina, it has been a pleasure working with you. Well, most of the time. One of the reasons I have enjoyed working with you and admired you is when you thought I was wrong, you let me know it and back at you on that. Yeah, you're always able to see a way to work together on issues that we both felt important. And even when we are clearly not of the same political thoughts, it's always been just a super fun experience. And I learned so much over the time working with you this time. Just a little bit of quick history. When Sabrina came on the board at first, The good old boys decided they didn't even want to film the video anymore because they were so embarrassed about what she was exposing. My brother, who somehow found out about that, was so outraged that he made me, and we went up there and we videotaped those meetings for well over 6 months, maybe a year. And what I saw there was just constant harassment and belittlement. They actually had Miss Brennan investigated twice because she wanted to use an email address to communicate with constituents. They would not even provide her a district email address. It was just one thing after another, changing the times the meetings were held, changing the conditions under which commissioners could say things. It has just been 6 years of that, Sabrina, or 8 years of it really, that we've been watching. But you've made a big difference. No longer is the board the most highest paid special board in all the land of California, which it was. In spite of what I think of many of the commissioners, I think you're all much better than what we had. I think the Harbor District is definitely run 10 times better than back in the bad old days. And so I can't really say that everything that you put up with hasn't been.
Thank you. We'll go to James Sang-Yun Lee.
Thank you, Board President. I just wanted to echo some of the statements made earlier. I also want to note that some of the great things mentioned in your report for 2020 were initiated by Commissioner Brennan over the last 10 years. As the previous commenter mentioned, before Sabrina even got onto this board, meetings of the Harbor District were not even recorded regularly. Commissioners did not have district email addresses, and there were problems with staff, including uncashed checks being left in open drawers for anyone to take a look at and see or take. So these are all things that, you know, seem very low bar, very low standards, but these are things Sabrina had to push really hard to change. And I just want to say that I appreciate Sabrina's work. She has started as board president the board's first ever finance committee that was done during her first term. Because of the work of that finance committee, the board and the district ended up paying off 40 years worth of debt. And that is why the district is now able to consider something like a reserve. Sabrina also started, before it became a Harbor District thing, she had citizens committee meetings to address beach erosion at Surfers Beach. And that committee got taken on as a Harbor District committee. We now have Brad Damitz working on the issues at Surfers Beach, and Brad is now also working on the West Trail Restoration Project. So there are a lot of things going on at the Harbor District that is absolutely amazing, wonderful. And I just want to make sure that Sabrina gets some time today and is recognized for that work, because I see that there's no agenda item for that. So thank you, Sabrina, for all your work. I know you will continue to do good work outside this board, as you have been doing over the last 4 years. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll move to Lee Fernandez.
Hello. Hello to the president and board members. Happy to speak today. I'm Lee Fernandez. I'm a 30-year resident of San Mateo County, and I'm Sabrina Brennan's mother. So I'm really aware of the thousands of hours that she spent researching and advocating and working with staff and employees of the Harbor District in order to initiate and promote and get things done. It's been a long 8 years, and 2 years before that, she had run for commission but not been elected. So I'm really proud of her 8 years of public advocacy and her courage. And just to mention a few of the things that she's done, she's worked for inclusion of women in professional sports competitions, especially in surfing and in Mavericks. She helped to pay off the district's debt by, it was paid off during her tenure, and she did start the finance committee. There was no finance committee prior to her being on the board. Now the district was debt-free after 40 years of being in debt. She worked a lot on the sea level rise and erosion problems. In May 2016, she organized the Sea Level Rise and Erosion Forum, and that included speakers from the U.S. Geological Survey and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Over 175 people attended, including city, county, and state representatives. And that was held at Douglas Beach House a long time ago. She's worked for transparency. She's worked for outreach to the public. She did initiate the email connections and the social media that the district now enjoys. And I think it's a wonderful thing that we're able to go online and find out all about what the agendas are and what are the. So thank you, Sabrina, for your courage. And thank you, Sabrina, for the time you spent.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to Captain Smitty.
Yes, good afternoon. And thank you, Harbor Commissioners, GM, for allowing me to speak. I wanted to say my name is William Smith. I represent the vessel Riptide. I would ask that you please consider revisions brought forth in the email that I sent regarding the item 8, the commercial activity permit. The revisions to the cap need to encompass all businesses in the harbor and not just the CPVs. And I had a question, another question. Does Sabrina and Brennan intend on reimbursing the harbor for non-harbor related items such as the meeting on lesbian activism, which were totally unrelated to the San Mateo County Harbor District? Thank you.
Thank you. Captain Dew. You're next in.
Good afternoon. My name is Captain Dwayne Winter with my vessel is Mooch Better. I operate out of the harbor. I would like to endorse the revisions set forth by William Smith, agenda item 8. I'd ask that it be pulled off the agenda for today and until review can be done. There are many items in that that I am concerned about. So I do endorse William Smith on what he set forth and just wanted to get my voice heard there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sabrina Brennan, you have your hand up.
Commissioner Brennan, I've sent you a request to unmute.
Oh yeah, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. I just wanted to take a moment, since commissioner comments are not until the end of the meeting, to thank staff while they might still be watching. It has been a pleasure to serve with and work with our staff. And I particularly want to thank our management staff. So that includes Jim, John, Julie, and everyone else in the administrative office, even in your work from home environments. I really appreciate everything that you guys do. So thank you. And additionally, I want to thank our 2 harbor masters, Jim and Chris. Excellent work. Everybody that I talk to out in the community is very pleased. And I'd also like to thank our Harbor Patrol for all of the wonderful work that they do, maintaining our facilities and saving lives. It's very inspiring. And it was actually a life-saving emergency situation that inspired me to run for the Harbor District initially. Unfortunately, that life could not be saved, and that was very tragic and sad. But I think positive things have come out of that, and the big wave risk assessment group training that the district provided before COVID kicked in was a huge benefit to emergency responders as well as to the public. And I really hope that going forward, the district prioritizes education for emergency responders as well as the public. I know that our staff and our management will get behind that. I hope that the board will too, because it's really important given the dangerous conditions that we have on the coast side. Thank you.
So thank you, everybody, for your comments. I don't see any more hands raised. Oh, yes, Lee Fernandez again.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak just a little bit more, because I did want to highlight a few other items that Sabrina was so interested in and promoted during her tenure on the Harbor Commission. To mention the fact that she was very interested in the emergency response training for the first responders and the public. And in 2019, she was very helpful in getting a training set up that was both for the Harbor District employees and also for the public for water safety and emergency response training. And glad to hear that hopefully that will continue. Also, the Mavericks Beach Trail, the living shoreline. In 2017, she voted to approve a living shoreline versus the seawall to improve public access and access for emergency vehicles at the west shoreline for the trail to Mavericks Beach. This was a shift away from the hard armoring, and this is what Sabrina had been promoting all along. And also the administrative building, it was sold. She voted against selling that lot in El Granada, and then it was repurchased in 2019. So hopefully the Harbor District will go forward with the new building. Also the Johnson Pier, she's been promoting for improvement of Johnson Pier for years. And I'm hopeful that at some point in the future, the Harbor District will be able to finance that. Beach replenishment, she's been for that all along, and now it's continuing, so that's great. So thank you again to Sabrina for your courage, your perseverance, and your public advocacy. Thanks to the Harbor Commission too. Oh, last of all, the beach facility there at Surfers Beach, which is on the agenda this time around. She's been promoting that for years as well too, and very happy to see that that is going to happen.
Ed Lorenis, you have your hand up.
I do. Can you hear me? I'd like to say something about Sabrina's tenure. If I was going to do that during my commissioner comments, but it makes more sense to do it now. And I'll start off. Can you hear me?
Yes, Commissioner Lorenis, you're audible.
Thank you. I didn't want to speak to the ether without being heard. First of all, I'd like to reprimand the board for not setting this item on the agenda. It really speaks to the kind of leadership we have right now. And I'm sorry to have to say that. I wish I didn't have to. You should all be ashamed of yourselves. Sabrina Brennan was responsible for getting at least two of these commissioners, at least helping them, if not actually responsible for getting them elected. That's number one. You should at least thank her for that. You wouldn't be here otherwise, I would guess. And then secondly, she has single-handedly unraveled the old boy network that this commission had for so many years. I, as a member of Surfrider Foundation 10 years ago, went in front of a meeting with the Harbor District and was told by the was told by the general manager at the time that they are a special district and they could do whatever they want when I was asking them to enforce the lease at Surfers Beach. And finally, with the help of many organizations, we're there now. And Sabrina Brennan was one of the key components to making this first agenda item on our discussion actually happen. I'm very happy that it is, and it goes to her strength of will and research and perseverance. regardless of this board's political affiliations and concerns, you should have at least thanked her for her tenure on this board. There's a lot that's happened and you've heard just little bits of it that would have never been in front of this board. And I can tell you from my experience with, as an example, with the Surfers Beach project, when it came before her and I, when we sat down with the city of Half Moon Bay and others, the plan looked completely different than it is now. It is what it is now because of her.
Thank you very much. We are moving on. There are no new members of the public with their hands raised, so we're going to move on to committee updates, which I don't believe we've had any committee meetings. So before we move to the consent calendar, I'll just note that the rules we've established for our Zoom meetings will continue today. Commissioner and members of the public are on mute until they ask to go through the chair to speak. We have 5 items on the consent calendar today. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar, or are there any items commissioners would like pulled?
I'll move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Roll call, Melanie. Oh, Commissioner Brennan, you have your hand up.
I was muted, so if other commissioners are not muted, it would be helpful if you would not mute me as well so that I can chime in about consent. I would like to pull the bills and claims item off consent.
All right, do we have an amended motion to approve with item 1 pulled? I don't hear that, so
I'm sorry, I don't understand what's happening here. Anyone can pull an item off consent.
President Reiring, that's correct. So then the motion should be to approve the consent calendar absent the one item that's been pulled.
great. Does someone need to make that motion, or is that just?
You should have somebody make the motion.
All right, could somebody make that amended motion?
What are you looking for? A motion minus the bills and claims?
Correct.
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Melanie, roll call, please.
Commissioner Chan-Caroli,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan,
Aye.
Commissioner Reiring.
Aye. So I'm going to move that item to the first of our discussion items, or let's see. Yes, I'll put that at the beginning of our discussion items, beginning with item number 6. So we'll now move to bills and claims. And Commissioner Brennan, you pulled this item.
I did. So I pulled the item because I had some questions about legal fees. And I guess they're questions for Jim or maybe for Julie, whoever handles tracking our legal fees. So that would be there's a link to a spreadsheet. I'm just explaining this to the public, which indicates all of the different law firms that the district engages with and the total amount spent per year. So I'm just looking at that now, and I'm noticing that there hasn't been an update since August on the Cochette legal billings. And from what I heard, Jim, how many days of litigation were going on with the fish buyers lawsuits? I'm talking about the arbitration process. How many days did we have counsel in arbitration, and how many lawyers did we have in arbitration?
Good afternoon, Commissioner Brennan. There was 10 days of arbitration with the arbitrator. And
didn't we have three lawyers per day?
There has been 3 attorneys working on the case on behalf of the district and billing within the legal billing, yes.
Okay, so I would have expected that we would have more recent billing, because it's been my experience that counsel, all of our law firms that we work with, bill the district on a monthly basis. Is that not happening?
That is happening. We do get the monthly basis, and they bill a month behind. So the current bill on the agenda for today is from October. And when the spreadsheets is configured, we may or may not have received the updated information. So this spreadsheet is a little dated by the time it gets to the board every month, and then we try to catch up the following month.
Okay, so since it says it hasn't been updated since August, I don't know if that's accurate on that particular firm. Can you tell me roughly, right now we're up to over 100,000 with them. How much additional anticipated, or I guess you already know because you already have the bills, like how much is the additional billings that we haven't put on the spreadsheet yet?
I do not recall specifically, but I would, if I remember correctly, it should be around, bringing it up to October, around 120.
Okay.
Oh, can I interrupt for a second? Because
please, Julie.
There's something on the bills and claims here that may be being overlooked, is that this bills and claim is actually recommending a motion to approve $163,673.85 for payment for Cotchett, Petrie, and McCarthy. I'm not sure that if all of that is associated with the arbitration.
I'm sorry, where is that? I completely missed that.
That's on the staff report.
So that would be in addition to what's on the spreadsheet?
That's correct.
Yes.
So Jim, you were saying 120,000, but that doesn't match up with what Julie just said, so I'm confused.
It should be, if my memory serves me correctly, up through August, it'll be about 120,000. And my opening comments, if it wasn't clear, it was in addition to what was already on the agenda.
Okay, so it's 120,000 plus an extra 160,000.
Ballpark, yes.
So
and
we're
I can get you those exact figures.
So we're getting close to 300,000, correct?
We're approaching, yes.
We're approaching 300. And so I was wondering, I think it's important for the public to understand how much the litigation related to the fish buyers lawsuits is costing the district. Is there a way that a spreadsheet, I guess this is a question for you, Julie, could there be a spreadsheet provided that includes the legal costs? I know you can't share the details, or some data, maybe an email, that explains the legal costs to date, total legal costs, and then also the cost for the Moffitt and Nickel survey that was done that is tied to the litigation, so that we're looking at more of a complete picture of what the total cost of these lawsuits is to the district. Because I know that our local newspapers haven't reported on this at all. And I think that we haven't been as transparent as we probably should be about the amount of taxpayer funds that are going into defending the district related to the complaints that the fish buyers have made. So the question is, can that information be provided like kind of a line item so that we can see what the total costs are?
We could put together an email with that information and provide it to you, yes.
Okay, I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Are we ready to approve the bills and claims? Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve bills and claims.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, Melanie.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen Corrali.
Aye.
The motion carries. We'll move to discussion item number 6, Pillar Point Harbor RV Park restroom and green space design. The recommendation is to authorize staff to solicit bids for construction of the preferred plan for the Pillar Point Harbor RV Park ADA restroom and green space project in accordance with the Public Contract Code invitation for bid. And I see there's an update online to this item. John Moran?
Yes, good afternoon, commissioners. This is a motion for the board to authorize staff to solicit bids for construction of the preferred plan for the Pillar Point Harbor RV Park ADA restroom and green space project in accordance with the Public Contract Code invitation for bid process. The district has worked with the City of Half Moon Bay Planning Department to host several public meetings to discuss options and gather input for a new ADA restroom and green space near Surfers Beach. The additional restroom, outdoor showers, and green space gathering area and the parking rearrangement is needed due to the large number of the public that utilize the trail and the adjacent Surfers Beach. The district brought on a professional architectural design engineering firm, Questa, with their subcontractor, Ware and Associates, to assist in finalizing plans consistent with the CDP conditions of approval and public need. The Questa Ware teams are here today to give us a presentation explaining the preferred plan and answer any questions. Half Moon Bay planning representatives are also on the line for us as well, should we have any questions for them. If the board approves, we will finalize technical specifications for the preferred plan and then put the project to bid for construction, consistent with the Public Contract Code. After bids are reviewed, staff will bring the lowest qualified bid back to the board for consideration. But now I'd like to introduce Questa Ware, Jeffrey Peters, and John Ware, who will start us off. John, I see you're on there. Lizzie, can we get John to be able to share his screen?
I believe John Ware has been given permissions to screen share.
Great.
Thank you, John. Thank you, commissioners. I'm John Ware from Ware Associates. We've been working closely with staff and the district on the Pillar Point project, and I'm going to have Chris Parshak, who's a fellow designer, actually present to you today. So if you could give Chris Parshak the screen, he's going to walk through the Pillar Point public restroom and green space plan for you. And then Jeff Peters, myself, and other design members are available for questions after the presentation. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Thank you. So this is the following presentation is a revised and updated version of what was shared during the public workshop on October 5th. And if you don't mind bearing with me, I might have a few technical issues with this, but we have revised this presentation to primarily put forward our preferred design. And I think, yeah, we'd like to use this opportunity to kind of just walk you through this restroom and revised parking layout and plaza design. So this presentation is available for download, I believe, on the Harbor District website. Most of you are familiar with the project site here just at Pillar Point, just adjacent to Surfers Beach. And you can see the adjacent RV park, and then the coastal trail, which is immediately adjacent to the proposed project site, and then its proximity to Surfers Beach, the Pacific Ocean, and Cabrillo Highway. And I would like to invite Cuesta or my colleagues at Ware to chime in at any time. But here, as you can see, the project limits, sort of the work limits boundary, sort of capturing this corner of the coastal trail as well as this portion of the RV park. And below we have sort of listed the requirements we were looking to meet in terms of the coastal development permit, all are addressing a kind of a range of issues, including the parking area, the site, and the restrooms. So the following plan aerial depicts the proposed revised parking layout designed to accommodate the new restroom and plaza design, but also to meet the coastal development requirements. So with Cuesta can chime in if they like, but basically with coordination from the adjoining RV park, several RV stalls will be replaced with day use parking and EV charging spaces. And then towards the plaza will be ADA parking stalls and temporary van parking for unloading and offloading visitors. Without coming from Cuesta, I'm just going to move forward. So the project need was for a new restroom and plaza space for all the various and parking for all the various users and groups associated with the site, which are quite numerous. And so certainly we felt that there was a strong need for the restroom facility, the plaza space, green space, and sort of meetup area. And so to just sort of jump into the design, the preferred design, we began with sort of immediate studies of the site, including a major wind direction, with sort of the assistance or building upon previous design studies that had been developed. Sort of the first formal move we agreed to was situating the restroom building at the rear of this lot, primarily to block major winds, but also to kind of to be tucked in such a way that would allow sort of open circulation from the trail to the parking lot and kind of away from the space. So here in yellow, we have the sort of potential meetup zones, the space just adjacent to the restroom enclosed space would be covered with the roof. And then separate would be this sort of a wet arm where the showers and drinking fountain would be located. And the you can see the circulation finding its way through without necessarily disrupting so much these spaces that have been allocated in the proposed plan. And this overall approach, we feel, was to create a strong balance of all of the various users and needs, and just sort of site conditions, including views, wind, privacy, security, and to not conflict with one another. And then in terms of the structure itself, we looked to devise a material palette that was durable, low maintenance, and cost efficient, and certainly just site appropriate, welcoming, and just straightforward. So here we have marked just some of the amenities and features of the plan. The restroom plan, 3 stalls, one with a urinal and toilet, and an additional stall for changing clothes. The open common sink space has a certain opacity to allow natural ventilation and views into the space and out. Just outside of this space would be the covered gathering area, which is partially protected from the predominantly northwest winds, and will be outfitted with benches, community board, interpretive exhibits, and of course, excellent views out to Surfers Beach. And just adjacent, here you can see that wet arm, sort of a low wall up against Cabrillo Highway, benches, water fountains, and the stainless steel freestanding showers. The previous design, the previous presentation, we kind of shared the various roof options that we're investigating. As you can see here on the right, we have our proposed design. This particular roof height is, we believe, 6'6" above Cabrillo Highway. So it's certainly compact and low profile here at the site. Here's somewhat of a photo merge montage. Here's a view of this traditional roof design, an aerial of the site. And then just to note, per the public workshop feedback, we got this particular tree species that we show will not be part of the rain garden design in front of the parking stalls there. Also, another request and feedback from planning was to darken the palette. So this is a revised material palette for the restroom facility. And so in addition to the plaza space in the restroom building will be a series of site furnishings. And these have been selected to kind of match the architecture of the plaza and the restroom building. Durable concrete, stainless steel, highly durable and easy to maintain furniture. And then another request that was put forward from planning and then coordinated with Public Works would be this particular form of waste management. It would be a waste cart enclosure with a sized opening, and this would allow the need for a larger dumpster, or this would bypass the need for a larger dumpster, and the bins themselves could be wheeled out with the trash collected. A slide prepared of just highlighting some of the proposed landscape concepts. Then view from the highway. You could see the plaza space, Surfers Beach just beyond. A view of the gathering area off the coastal trail and entry into the restroom building. There's a view behind the, this is from behind the covered gathering area to the Pacific Ocean. And here just from the covered area out to the plaza and trail. This could be an informal gathering area on the lawn space. And again, these trees would not be present. And here, kind of final aerial of the plaza and restroom space. This design has come after numerous studies, and we feel very comfortable putting forward this particular design. And we believe that it balances all the various needs and site-specific conditions in a very clean and simple way, resulting in what we believe is a very well-functioning, simple restroom shelter and plaza. And I think that concludes our presentation. If I could ask John Ware or John Moran to add.
Thank you, Chris. Yes, and commissioners, John or Jim, if there's any questions, we're happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher, for that presentation, and thank you, John. I have a question. I'm wondering why the cypress trees got removed, and looks like 2 different locations.
I believe it's just their views would be too significant. I'm sorry, their obstruction of views would be too significant,
Okay.
or not ideal.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, I can add there that that Ware and Associates and Questa have been working closely with the City of Half Moon Bay Planning, and to ensure that all of the landscaping is resilient, natural, to the area. The pictures, the renderings, kind of show what appears to be grass and, like regular golf course grass. All the vegetation will be resilient, acceptable vegetation. And of course, we'll be doing our best to ensure that the view from the roadway is not obstructed. And in addition, we did add, wasn't really it was shown but not mentioned, I guess, that we did add additional recycling centers for a total of 3, so that we can start off with what we believe to be adequate garbage recycling in the area, because it is a heavily used area.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, John. Commissioner Brennan, you have your hand up.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I do have a number of questions, and some of them might require looking at maybe an overview of the design. So a different slide than this one. You guys probably know the best one to look at. Is the architect with us? Sorry if I missed that.
Yes. Hi, Sabrina. Chris and I worked on the design. I'm John Ware. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
I think,
How are you
okay,
today?
I'm great. Thanks for being here. And I think most of
Yeah.
my questions are probably directed at you.
Maybe we could go to the slide. John,
Yeah,
maybe you
let's
guys
go
could
back.
go to the
back,
slide
Chris.
that shows the overall bird's eye view, including the parking area. I think that one shows everything the best.
Would you prefer the plan view or the?
Yeah, I think the plan view showing the parking area and everything.
Yeah, we can move around wherever, depending on the questions. Yeah, there.
Okay,
Almost there.
That's good.
that's good.
That's good, I think, Chris.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so in no particular order, the first thing I wanted to ask about is whoops, we lost it. The original design that I had been shown and that we'd seen was included a more like an amphitheater approach with a little raised in the green space, like a little raised hill so people could sit and watch surfing from there. And it looks like that went away. So I was curious why that was removed, because it seemed like a really good idea. And I totally understand that cypress trees aren't going to fly, because I know there are a group of people in El Granado that are adamantly opposed to any cypress trees potentially blocking their views. So I get that, but it's also not clear what those trees are going to be replaced with. So I think it'd be helpful to know if they're going to be replaced with some grasses or some kind of native plants or other trees. And I'm just going to keep going with some questions. So the amphitheater is definitely a big question. Wondering if we've checked the curve of the path to make sure it's easily bikeable. I'm assuming you guys have done that. The space separating the benches from the coastal trail, it still feels a little tight there given the amount of traffic. So I'm wondering why the benches aren't moved out all the way to the edge of the asphalt or concrete, whatever that is, because you could have your feet on the dirt area, or if there's a way to maybe make that area a little bit wider, but it's hard to say because I'm not seeing any dimensions included here. So maybe you guys can clarify what the dimensions are. I think there's one, but I'm not sure. Just wanted to make sure there was a dog watering station that's separate from the showers. And the restrooms. I'm wondering if the restrooms are enclosed like they are at Pacific Estate Beach, where you go into a restroom and you have a locked door, so you don't have to worry about anybody coming in there. They've tried to address public safety concerns with that. So I'm wondering if these restrooms are private in that way and safe for people. And then also the wall that the wash station is, where you wash your hands. I'm wondering why that wall is blocking the view. Like, what's the purpose of having such a high wall there? Is it to block wind, or it seems like there should be, if you're standing there washing your hands looking out at the ocean, you should be looking at ocean. So I'm wondering if that could be addressed, because I don't remember exactly, but I think in the last versions that I saw previous to you guys working on this, the restroom felt a little bit more open and more like a breezeway kind of effect. And to me, that felt like it captured the views, and it also helped protect public safety. So you don't feel like you're sort of trapped in an enclosed space. So those are, to start, some of the questions I have.
Yeah, thanks, Sabrina. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think I'll start kind of at the end with the building related questions, and then perhaps let Questa answer some of the site questions. But the first question kind of, and I think one of the biggest changes that we made in the design is we changed the design from having these lockable restrooms to make it, and we pulled the hand washing station out of the restrooms because we've seen on other projects, and there's just been a lot of concern about these lockable spaces being used and for other purposes, and not being able to provide security for them. People can lock themselves in, and they're just not able to be generally as safe for the public. So what we have here is the washing station outside, and then the bathrooms private in the rooms.
Now, when you say outside, it's still in this
They're covered.
enclosed.
It's still covered, yes.
Okay.
But it's visible. If you could go maybe to an elevation, if somebody were to drive by, you can see if there's people in there. If somebody is outside wanting to go into the facility, they can see if there's anyone in there.
Is there a purpose for that? Or I'm just wondering why it's so enclosed.
Just studies have been done on public restrooms and found that this is just more desirable in terms of safety, to have it so there's no hidden places that aren't visible to the public. And the other thing we did, the other design, you're right, it had an exterior kind of shielded space, but that was right outside the bathrooms. And so what we've consciously done is move that exterior meeting space, covered meeting space, if you will, to have it away from the bathrooms. And it's shown here in plan. Go back to that plan, Chris, or one of the plans. Here, can you see the plan now? Mm-hmm. It's the area on the right of the restroom. So it's providing the same area and in fact, greater views out to the ocean, but it's not right outside the bathroom stalls.
Are you talking about the area up at the top of this image?
That's
where the
right, yeah.
showers are?
To the left, so it's actually bigger. It includes the area where the showers are, and then all the way to the left where the seating is. So that's it's a kind of a room, as there was a room prior, but this room is no longer right outside the bathroom door. It's distinct and separate from the bathrooms. So we feel we've provided that same meetup space, but we've actually enlarged it. We've connected it both to the shower area and across the way to the green area, which relates to your other question, the kind of amphitheater or mounded green. Maybe Questa has a comment on this. There's no intent to take away the mounded area. I think there's a bioswale on the northern portion, but I don't see any reason why it could be the same sort of mounding there. That's the same kind of non-hardscaped area.
Could we maybe look at a slide that shows that area?
Yeah, let's go to that area.
Should I select another view?
Yeah, I think it would be good to see the whole area.
John, I think I can address questions 1 through 4.
Okay, and then let's see.
Apologies, it's just slow.
And Sabrina, while we're finding the slide, there is a dog watering station as a part of the water fountains.
That's great.
So yes, there is that. Restroom safety, we strongly believe these restrooms are both private and safer. We have real concerns about the other restrooms, that lockable restroom. if you just kind of Google that lockable restroom, you'll see all kinds of examples of how they go wrong.
Yeah, and Sabrina, there are slats to the left and right, if you will, east and west of the elongated sink area. So you could still see into that area right in front of the restrooms, and you could still see out as well. And that also allows adequate ventilation. And there are doors for the restroom. And then in addition, the area, the walkway that goes into the restroom area has a lockable door on it so that we can close the restrooms at 10 p.m.
Oh, I see. So you're trying to you're trying to close off the sink area.
That's right.
The
That's
whole
lockable.
sink and restroom area can be completely closed off at 10 p.m. so that we have no nefarious things going on in there.
Yeah, Chris, if you want to just jump, do you want to just quickly jump to that slide, Chris, or maybe the interior elevation that shows that lockable sliding gate?
I can't exactly jump, unfortunately.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry, these files are really big, a lot of data, so it just takes
I
a
wonder
while
if
for
we
each
can
one.
answer the questions on the
Oh, go
grass
ahead.
and mound and the tree. What the slide shows was from the previous public presentation, trees, which aren't there anymore. But anyway, Margaret, do you want to maybe talk about the mounds and the rain garden concept and the question about pushing the bench, I guess the benches back a bit closer to the decomposed granite so there's more walkable and bikeable area in front of them?
Thank you. This is Margaret Henderson. I'm the landscape architect at Cuesta, and I was going to address the questions that were raised. One was about the raised hill, and if you look at the plans, you'll see that where it says bioswale and rain gardens, those areas are intended to take care of the existing storm drain runoff that's at the site, and so we would convert those into more depressional areas that could accumulate the site runoff and transport it and filter material through the planting areas. And then if you see just to the east of that, that area with a seat wall on one side could easily accommodate a mounded area with either some sort of a no-mow type of native turf or grass or some other low surface that would be something that people could go on if they wanted to observe. So the entire area is not intended to be a rain garden. It is just the smaller areas on the site, and we could certainly accommodate a mounded area. The curve of the path, we've moved the path in the vicinity of the restroom back with a surface that is a pervious surface that would be on the ocean side that would accommodate bicycles and pedestrians as well. And we did get a comment from Half Moon Bay City regarding that the outdoor, where it says outdoor classroom being used as a cut-through area. So
I'm sorry, as a what?
As a cut-through by bicyclists.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can address that by either adding some benches or some other solution in that area to discourage that. The space separating the path, that's the space separating the path from the coastal trail. And then the location of the benches in the lower right corner of the screen, those benches would be facing out towards the ocean, and for ADA you need to have a paved surface in front of that. So you know, we can explore using, you know, a different alignment and different style of bench. It doesn't necessarily have to be this linear feature, especially since the COVID has become prevalent, the issue of spacing between benches and the capacity of the bench, all of that is kind of changing. But there does need to be the aisle space in front of the bench, assuming that they're going to be facing that. And there was a comment about putting the benches further back against the landscape area, which would be moving them further north. The problem with that is that then you've got the people sitting and you know, the activity of the bench is in the path of the trail with cyclists, so you don't want that either. So we need to keep a separate space that's available for the benches versus the pedestrians and active people walking.
So to follow up on that, I totally agree with that, with, you know, having the benches facing outwards. And this was something that was in the initial design, and I think it makes a lot of sense. And obviously viewing is the whole reason people come to this location, because they want to look at people surfing and they want to look out at the ocean. So I think benches are super important. One thing you got me thinking about is, would it be possible to have different size benches? Because sometimes you know, there might be a large group, meaning a bigger family, that needs a larger bench. And then sometimes it's just two people and then they take up the entire bench. I don't know if that would help or not, but it seems like maybe there could be some variation in the size of benches, and that could help with the spacing and to address COVID potentially. So that's an idea.
That's what we were thinking of, because like you said, a lot of the people coming are in pods of 2 or larger areas. So varying the spacing and the size of the benches is certainly what we would intend to do. And if you notice the site furnishings, we had some that were more or less pods or boulder shaped, which could be placed, you know, at various locations to, you know, kind of accommodate smaller groups. And then the seat wall fits well with an outdoor classroom concept where you have a large group of people that might be there or wanting to you know, gather their things or something. The seat wall fits well with that.
The seat wall is nice.
Yeah, and it would help if we do a mound behind that, because it kind of gives backing and it places the seat wall into the landscape more fittingly, if that makes sense. It fits better.
Commissioner Brennan, I'd like to move on to we have some people waiting to make comments as well. Are you just about ready to wrap this up?
Yeah, I just had one more thing. I wanted to look at an elevation of the restroom where we're looking at that wall again. And thank you for all that information about the landscaping. It looks like it's going to be really nice, and I'm excited that putting some elevation or some height into the landscaping might be a possibility, because I think an amphitheater is really kind of what we need there. That'll give everybody the best view possible. Thank you for switching the slide. I guess I would just ask if maybe some thought could be given to, and these are, you know, this is a nice design for the restroom. I think the whole thing in general is super exciting, so I'm thrilled about it. But if there was a way to change the slats so you could actually get a little bit of view out of them.
Go back, Chris. Go back to. Sorry to interrupt, Chris.
Yeah.
Go back to more where you were, Chris.
The, elevation here.
Oh, but it's nice to see that. I'm sorry. Just go back to, because then you can feel the space and see out.
Sorry, which slide?
I think 2 more back has the both interior, has a perspective view through the space. I should give you a slide number. Apologies.
This one?
Yes, great. Sorry, Sabrina, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Number one, it feels a little dark in there. You've got what looks like a solid wall where the sink is located, and you've got mirrors on it. Just wondering, first of all, I don't think the mirrors are even necessary, but I know that's traditional and they'll probably be that kind of material that doesn't break, I assume. But it just feels a little dark and like you're kind of in jail in there, with bars on the walls. And I think it's a nice architectural detail, but I'm just wondering if we can still, I get that staff wants to be able to close this thing off, but frankly, it's open because anybody could climb up those bars if they wanted to and jump through if they wanted to, right? Because it's open below the ceiling. So since it's open, why not try to space it so that you can actually see?
Excuse me, I need to point out that what we're looking for here is approval of the preferred plan. This is not a meeting where we are working to redesign this facility that has undergone a lot of design input, board time and approval, public input. So at this time, I'm going to call on other members of the public to give their input. Hopefully people can keep it a little more brief.
If I could just finish to say that actually, unless I'm misunderstanding, I believe this is the first time that the board has looked at this project. This is the first time I've ever seen this project at a public meeting. So this is my first opportunity to ever give input on this project. And I think that's what the board should do today. And I think the public should give input on this project. And I think it's important for our staff to hear the input and for the professionals that we've hired to hear it and for the city of Half Moon Bay to hear the input as well. And I definitely want to hear from others. Thank you.
Commissioner Lorenz.
This is
go ahead.
John Ware. If I can just, sorry to interrupt, if I can just jump into it, just quickly address some of these issues, I think it will help everyone. The points that Sabrina made, I think are really good points. As far as darkness or light quality, the stalls themselves have skylights, so they're not dark. When you go in there, they're light filled, I would say. So that's that. And then the stalls themselves are also have screens, so they're secure. Yes, somebody could climb over the top, so that's something we'll discuss with John Moran. As far as the slats, they're horizontal, so when you can look out, and you can kind of see out because they're horizontal if you can adjust your eye level. But the feeling in there, I think, will be very open and light filled. These renderings make it look darker than it probably would feel. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Lorenz, you had your hand up?
I did, thank you. As most of you know, I'm very excited about this project too. I have questions, and I'd just like to point out that the process of approving something requires us to ask questions and point out places where we think there should be a change. And I too I started off with this project in its early days, and then once we were reorganized, left it. And I do have some serious questions that I'd like them to be answered, if that's okay. I think you guys have done a great job with this, but there are just a few things I'd like to talk about. So if you could go to, I think it was slide 4, please. Almost there.
Thank you. All right. Is this the correct slide?
This one, yes. Before we had you folks give us this finalized preferred plan, we did have a meeting where we talked about some of these things. And one question I have, and it may be for staff instead of you folks, and that is, if you look at what would be the northeast corner, there's 6 RV spaces that are going to be taken up. And my question is this: why did we choose that configuration versus taking 3 RV spaces from the top and 3 RV spaces from the bottom, which would have given us a much greater opportunity to do some restructuring of either the coastal trail, moving it back a little bit from the erosion, because parking spaces are much smaller than RV spaces. And it would have at least given us the possibility to think about reconfiguring the area where the RVs will go in and out to give it a little bit, make it a little bit safer. So my question is, why 3-3? Why not 3-3 versus the 6 that were spaces that the district is going to take? It's the same number of spaces. I understand from the RV point of view, they're higher value spaces, but what we want here is public serving facilities. And I think I could easily make a case that there's plenty of income from the RV park already. But can someone answer that question, please?
Margaret, do you want to try your hand at that first? We did look at various parking alternatives, I should say, and reviewed those with both internally and with John, and what is proposed seemed to work the best. But anyway, Margaret, any other thoughts, or John Moran?
I would just say, John Moran here, I would just say, if we could go to the current preferred plan for that parking.
Just a moment.
Where they're
Next slide.
in, vertically instead of angled. Ed, to answer your question, we did look at multiple, we asked Questa where to look at multiple other options, which included like having less on the north and having, in fact, adding some there in the middle area that's kind of out of this project area originally. And it was determined that putting them all on the north side there was the most beneficial without having to change everything considerably. And we also took into consideration the needs of the RV park as well. And this was the plan that we believe came up most favorable to everyone, and does not, as we learned in one of the public meetings where this plan was all shown, we had comment, that it would not be a best scenario to have people having the parking places in at a slant on the north side to be able to not make people drive all the way through the park to exit. So in this current version, the people are able to back out of those parking places and exit without having to go through the entire RV park to exit.
Okay, thank you, John. I appreciate it. So I've got a couple other questions. With respect to the trash cans, are they going to be designed in such a way that animals can't get in and distribute garbage once the public's gone. Have you guys considered that?
Yeah, Chris, do you want to go back to the slide with the trash cans? So what's shown as far as the trash cans has been, it's a San Mateo standard and was proposed in conjunction with feedback from the city. So yes, I believe they are secure.
Yeah, it's
So
a
let's
relatively
get that
narrow
slide up.
opening at the top. I think it deters like raccoons and animals, wildlife from being able to get into the trash recycling centers.
Okay. And also wind, because that is kind of a wind corridor, and
Yeah.
people tend to just throw paper in there and or plastic and it gets blown out.
Yeah, at the public meeting, that was one of the things that was brought up, is ensuring that we did have adequate trash and recycling receptacles. And the district district staff, who of course are on 24/7, are going to be responsible for keeping this area well maintained and emptying those trash and recycle receptacles.
Right.
Yeah, so the request was for this type, which you can see it works with the cart enclosures themselves. So those carts can be taken away, emptied, put back.
Right.
Smaller animals could get in there, but
from what I've seen is if those, like you have, what I think I see there, the recycling bin, that's that typical blue color.
Yep.
If there's a way for an animal to get in there, and like that's a big space, they'll happily distribute any garbage in the area. So it's just,
yeah.
I'll take your word for it that you guys thought about this and use the appropriate bins, but just wanted to point that out. I think that's it for me. I have to say I wasn't able to be in those meetings where you discussed the configuration, so I'm not 100% clear on the logic behind it. So I'm a little disappointed that maybe I can talk to staff later. And I do agree with Sabrina and John. You both answered several of my questions, like the lawn space. It would have been nice to see in this presentation a little more detail on how the landscaping was going to be done, especially with respect to the plants that were being used. But you did answer the question, so thank you.
Great. James Lee, you have your hand up.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to start off by saying that I know when I first met Sabrina about 9 years ago, creating some sort of more visitor serving facilities at Surfers Beach was something we talked about when she told me she was going to run for the district in 2012. So it's a little interesting it's kind of amusing to hear the board president talk about how much time has been invested into this project. I'm sure Commissioner Brennan knows that better than anyone else. Certainly better than someone who only started paying attention to the district 2 years ago. To the point of the presentation, I think it looks great. I think the project overall is great. I would like to hear more about, as the commissioners have already mentioned, some of the issues around what plants will actually be placed there. I do like that sounds like there won't be any cypresses there, or that there'll be minimal. But I would like to know what sort of tree species are being planted, and if native plant species are being planted, does that mean native to California, native to this section of the San Mateo County coast, hospitable to pollinators, so on and so forth. I do also think that there's a great opportunity here with the space that you've constructed to put some sort of educational signage, whether it's about Surfers Beach itself, even something about, hey, did you notice Surfers Beach is a lot smaller than it is? Here's what the district is doing to address that. Something about that, signage about the fact that this used to be Ohlone land, might be nice, talking about the history of the land. I think with the gathering space you've created there, there's a great opportunity to incorporate education and some language and knowledge about stewardship into the design more explicitly through signage. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
John
James.
Olam, you have your hand up? Oh, I'm sorry.
Would you like us to address those points now? I think Margaret, maybe you could talk a bit about the landscape palette. There's a slide on that about the native plants.
Yeah, if it's easy to pull up the slide, there is a brief plant palette that's shown for the presentation. We don't show all the plants, but the intent is to use native plants that are native to this area, with the caveat that it's extremely difficult to find trees beyond Monterey cypress that are really would be located at this location. The understory vegetation, ground covers, etc., would all be native plants, cultivars, pollinator friendly, low water use, and appropriate for rain gardens and whatnot. It's a California coastal plant palette. Let's see. Again, it's difficult to find tree species that fit the needs of the site without using cypress.
And I think there was some questions on educational signage and including recognizing the Ohlone people here. So there is in the indoor gathering area, there is kind of a message wall or message board, and we can at this point we're still working on the design, and we can take the input today and continue to make refinements to the design to capture your collective comments quite easily.
Great, thank you. John Olam, you have your hand up?
Thank you, President Marion. This has been actually more than a 20-year project on the coast side. Because of some good old boy administrative techniques back in 1998, that harbor, the Pillar Point RV Park was allowed to be built without a CDP. And for those 20 years, the Harbor District has been unable to enforce its lease, which requires the existing restrooms to be opened. But apparently that was just never going to happen. So in 2016, citizens filed a complaint with John Doty of Solicit of Half Moon Bay, who has worked really hard, a lot harder than anybody at the Harbor District, to clean this mess up, to work out a situation, work out a plan, get the parties together. There were threats of lawsuits, but everybody started to see the light. Jill Eckes got involved, and she's just an excellent planner. I think you can see a lot of that is reflected in the design that you now have. Both John and Jill of Half Moon Bay have done a great amount of work on this project. Also, Ed Lorenas and John Moran actually showed up at meetings, added their input, and helped get the things stirred around from at the beginning, where 3 options were offered that were never going to happen. For now, we have something that we really can be proud of. Something that all of you, imagine, Tom, Nancy, and Virginia, will be taking credit for in the future. They all should know that Sabrina Brennan put a lot of effort in behind the scenes at handicapped access, for putting in facilities to help with surf schools and things like that, and to put together a complete holistic package that addresses a whole bunch of needs. And the deal is so good that even Mr. Nearhand has made an awful lot of sacrifice to make this deal happen. So with that in mind, you now know the history of how this happened and who's going to get credit for it. I hope you all will do the right thing and make this project happen. Thank you.
Captain Smitty, I see your hand up.
Yes, good afternoon. Once again, thank you for allowing me to make a comment. I have two questions on this. I'm concerned about the security lighting that for nights when this facility is either open or closed. I see there a need for lighting, and I don't know if that was addressed or not. I might have missed that. The second was for the garbage bins. Are these going to conform to the usage standards that the harbor has now? Are they going to be able to use that within the existing system we have, or are they going to have to buy or deal with that in a different way? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm ready to entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion
Do we have
to,
a second?
whoops,
Was that Fluffy?
no. I'll make a
Commissioner-
motion to authorize.
Commissioner Lorenz has his hand up.
Yeah,
Well,
we can.
everyone else has had a chance to talk. So
We're
I'm going to make,
get a motion and a second on the table here.
I'm making a motion to authorize staff to solicit bids for construction of the preferred plan for the Pillar Point Harbor RV Park ADA restroom and green space project in accordance with the public contract code invitation for the bid process.
I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second on the table. Do you have a comment, Commissioner Brennan?
Commissioner Brennan, you've been unmuted.
Thank you. Actually, Commissioner Lorenz was ahead of me, so if you could please take him first.
I unmuted. Thank you.
Commissioner Lorenz, go right ahead.
I have a couple of more questions, and it'd be nice not to be excluded. So my question is, it didn't occur to me until we started talking and someone from the public brought this up, is with respect to lighting. Since we don't see in any of the plans lighting, I'm assuming there isn't any. And if there is, I'd like to ask some questions with respect to lighting in that area. And with respect to native plants, one of the issues with that area is it has a huge amount of traffic. So any native planting that goes in the area should be plants that can survive the kind of abuse that we're going to see. There'll be a lot of people walking back and forth. And so if there's plants anywhere in the area, they're going to need to be able to survive some of that. So can someone tell me about the lighting?
There's no lighting proposed in the landscape area.
And in the restrooms?
And, yeah, Commissioner Lorenz, we need to discuss this with John, but I would assume that there will be security lighting for the restroom area itself, yes. But again, we haven't specifically discussed that at this stage of the project yet.
I imagine there are concerns about light pollution too, so that's a challenge.
That's exactly right. And the reason I asked the question is because if there are outside lightings, I request that they be shielded such that, one, they don't shine out into the ocean, because there's issues with that with respect to wildlife protection. And then number two, that they don't shine towards the east or through the view corridor. It should be relatively simple to do this.
Yeah, consistent with the RFP, all the lighting and the conditions of approval with the Half Moon Bay Planning CDP, all lighting will be downward facing, amber, low intensity lighting. And we will, of course, obviously right now, regretfully, it gets dark around 5 p.m. So we'll either be closing the restrooms at sunset or closely thereafter. But we'll look into adequate lighting that of course will not negatively impact the environment.
Appreciate that, John. Thank you. And one last statement on all of this is I'm very happy to see this happen after these many years, but also I think it's important to recognize you, John, because you were acting GM at the time. We sat down at the table with the folks from the city of Half Moon Bay and got to doing some of this work. And with that, also the city of Half Moon Bay and planning in particular. It was that meeting that got this going. And without Half Moon Bay planning, without your input, and without Coastal Commission staff, this would never have happened. And so it took a lot of effort from everyone, and you all did a great job. And so I very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Melanie, it looks like we have a motion and a second, so we're ready for roll call.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan,
I had my hand raised and I gave Ed an opportunity to speak first, but I didn't forfeit my opportunity to make last comments on this. So if I could please do that. I
Go
would.
right ahead. Zoom is sometimes challenging. You disappeared from my screen, Commissioner Brennan, so go ahead and make your final comment.
Okay. So again, I do want to express, how excited I am about the project. I want to, give a big thanks to John Moran, as well as Jill from Half Moon Bay. She's fantastic, and the city of Half Moon Bay is so fortunate to have her there. I agree with the points made about the lighting. I think, anyone that follows the Coastal Commission knows that if lighting isn't done correctly on the coast, the project will get appealed. And so that definitely needs to be addressed well. One suggestion I have is low lighting. For example, like the bench that would go around the amphitheater hill, that could have lighting built into it. There might be ways to build in some low lighting. The main thing is to prevent people from tripping so they don't, injure themselves. I think that's important. And then, of course, we want to protect the night sky. I liked the idea James brought up about the interpretive signage, and the landscape architect mentioned earlier that the city was concerned about the classroom area being treated like a thoroughfare for bicycles and skateboards and whatnot. So maybe one way to break that up a little bit, instead of filling it with a lot of benches, is to maybe put in some low interpretive signage. And I really want to stress low interpretive signage, because there's nothing worse than interpretive signage that blocks your view. That is just really poorly designed. So it's just an idea, sort of like a low counter height or something. And then education about coastal erosion. There could not be a more perfect location to educate the public about sea level rise and coastal erosion. So I hope that we will take advantage of that, and that we can work with the city on coming up with some really smart and useful interpretive signage. And I think that's about it. I'm happy to move this forward today, and I do hope that I'm sure that everyone working on it, including our staff, will continue to work on the project and make it a better project. And I can't wait to see it finished. The whole coast side is going to really appreciate this, and it's going to actually impact the entire Bay Area and all of the various organizations that bring young people to the coast side to learn to swim and surf, and to appreciate ocean safety, and to learn about marine life and local wildlife. So, and birds. So I'm just thrilled about it. Thank you.
Melanie, I think you started roll call.
Commissioner Brennan,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Crowley,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush.
Aye.
The motion carries. And we'll move on to item number 7, which is approve response to grand jury report entitled "Ransomware is not enough to think you are protected." The recommendation is to authorize staff to sign and submit a letter of response to the October 7th, 2020 grand jury report entitled "Ransomware, it is not enough to think you are protected." Julie, this is your item.
Good evening, or good afternoon, I guess, commissioners. As Nancy mentioned, the San Mateo County Grand Jury submitted a report to the district titled "Ransomware, it is not enough to think you are protected." That's shown as attachment 2 to the staff report. The district is obligated to respond to the findings and recommendations by January 5th, 2021, and the Harbor Commission is required to approve that response. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. Attachment 2 of the staff report presents the staff recommended response, and in general, staff agrees with the grand jury findings and recommendations. There's always room to improve the district's cybersecurity and to stay on top of new things as they come about. The grand jury requires that the district provide a confidential cybersecurity plan to the Harbor Commission no later than June 30th, 2021. The staff will work with Think Connected, our IT consultants, to ensure that that deadline is met. In addition, staff is in the process of completing online training to reduce the likelihood of successful malware and phishing attempts. Lastly, the district is negotiating a contract for a cloud-based system that will include additional security precautions. I'm happy to answer any questions. Staff does recommend the approval of the draft response to the grand jury report and to approve the authorization of the general manager to sign on behalf of the Harbor Commission.
Thank you, Julie. Commissioner Mathush, you have a question or comment?
I move to authorize the staff to sign and submit a letter of response to the October 7th, 2020 grand jury report titled "Ransomware, it's not enough to think you're protected," no later than January 5th, 2021.
And I'll second that.
Great. And we have Commissioner Brennan has a question or a comment.
The reason that I raised my hand was because I wanted to make a motion, but I just want to point out that due to petty politics, I was not able to make that motion. Not that it really matters. It's just there is no equity in the way that commissioners are muted by our board president, and that's really unfortunate.
Call for the question.
John Olam, and we have 2 members of the public with their hands up. John Olam, I saw yours first.
Thank you, President Waring. I believe this topic and technical topics like this illustrate the need for some citizen committees that have a little bit more expertise than what would be commonly expected for folks who are laymen. You should be at this point, someone should have already suggested that you had dual factor authorization for just about any critical server that you have. There would already be known which servers are mission critical, which servers really aren't. You'd be able to interpret the the quotes that you're going to get better if you had somebody, a citizen on this team, like, or a citizen technical advisory, that could explain to you what the terms mean and what the buzzwords mean and don't mean. As an example, there was an effort by the Harbor District to put wireless access throughout the harbor. And they paid somebody, a vendor, $4,000 to walk around with his iPhone and scope out what all the different networks were out there. Instead of paying that $4,000, they simply could have just called 3 vendors and said, come out and give us a quote. And it wouldn't have cost anything. But the people who were on the board at that time just did not have the technical expertise to even think along those lines. There was no one there they were going to ask about it. Another example would be the $35,000 in servers that the district paid for, but never received. Nobody had the technical expertise to say back and say, what? A $10,000 server? A lot of us in the technical industry who manage servers, I've never seen a $10,000 server. So I think you see where I'm getting at. You need some advice from people whose money you're spending and have the expertise and the motivation to give you really good advice and help you understand the options that you'll get presented. Thank you.
Thank you, James Lee.
Yeah, turns out I actually want to echo those comments. We've seen in these meetings that have been held since the pandemic over Zoom that there is a definite learning curve, especially for the older generation in getting on board with new technology. And I do agree that there are some petty politics involved here at the Harbor District, but also there's just a general incompetence when it comes to holding a public meeting over these online platforms. And that's across the board. Academia, I'm a master's student, it happens there. There's a big learning curve. And so for issues like this, like cybersecurity, I think especially for this particular board, we've seen with the last agenda item how there were only 2 board members who were really engaged in actually talking about what was put before them. So with matters of cybersecurity, this is really important. You need to have your attention on it. You need to be asking good questions. And in order to do that, you need the expertise. Right now, it doesn't seem like that expertise is there. I would highly recommend you reach out and educate yourselves, whether it's through, as John suggested, some sort of citizens committee or self-learning or something. It's really important for issues like this, especially in Silicon Valley, especially with some of the issues that have come up before when it comes to IT, cyber, internet-related issues that the previous speaker mentioned. So yeah, just wanted to emphasize that. Thank you.
Thank you. Melanie, Commissioner Brennan, I see you have your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate the public comments, and yeah, this does harken back to memories of the district paying for servers and equipment that we never actually received, and some of the missteps with prior IT arrangements. So it seems like this is something that the district should look into more. I would encourage everyone going forward to have the IT consultant that we are paying available to explain how we're going to protect ourselves from a cybersecurity standpoint. And I'm certainly no expert on that. And I think that's why it's important to have expertise and expert advice, and maybe there should be a review of it. And I'm sure that's something our staff is looking into and competent to work with our IT consultant on. And I look forward to hearing more about that in the future. Thank you.
Commissioner Lorenz.
Sabrina almost got to my topic, and that is I think it's great that we're able to see this response. So thank you for putting it in front of us. And that does raise the questions of how we're going to move forward. And I request that we have on an agenda item in the future when staff has done some work on this, a public discussion on it. Thank you.
Great. We have a motion and a second on the table. Roll call, Melanie.
Commissioner Brennan,
Hi, Melanie. Have you been
Hi.
rotating the people that you're calling? I'm just curious.
yep,
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. Aye.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz.
Hi.
The motion carries unanimously. And we'll move to item number 8, approve changes to commercial activity permit template. The recommendation is to approve proposed changes to the cap template and require permittees all new caps in 2021 renewal of existing caps. This is also Julie's item, or Jim or Julie?
Tom has his hand raised.
Commissioner Matoush?
This cap is held by a small number of people. I am one of them. I'd like to also acknowledge that there's a number of different groups of people in the Harbor District that have caps. And I sincerely look forward to the day in the future when many of our caps are very similar, have similar rules and regulations. However, actually, since I have a cap and this would directly affect me, I'm going to recuse myself. Hulicat is one of the cap holders in there, and I'm going to leave the meeting so that this can be discussed and leave it in good hands to see how it resolves.
Thank you, Commissioner Matoush. Jim, will this be you or Julie presenting this item?
If I can jump in before Julie talks, and then Julie can fill in any gaps that I may have. Thank you, President Ryring and Harbor Commissioners. The agenda item was an attempt to bring the commercial activity permits up to date with current laws and regulations. And a lot of the provisions in that template are straight from the old template that the district has been using for years with some updates. But based on feedback from the public, and I want to, again, thank you, Captain Smith, and I think it was Captain White. I have my notes right, or Captain Winter. Thank you for your input. It was valuable. I've come to the conclusion that the attached cap still needs a little bit more work. And as such, I would like to propose a new motion with respect to this agenda item. The proposed motion is as follows. That the general manager is directed to revise the San Mateo County Harbor District commercial activity permits issued pursuant to Title V of the Ordinance Code to bring them up to date with current laws, regulations, and harbor operations for review and consideration by the board prior to March 31st, 2021. The general manager is further authorized to extend all current commercial activity permits until March 31st, 2021. However, I'd still like to hear if there's any further comments from the public and or the board on how we can improve the caps or any suggestions for those improvements. I'm standing by for any questions.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Chang Crawley?
So if that's your proposed motion, Jim, I will actually make that motion. And if there's a second, then we can hear from the public.
I'll second that. And we'll start looking at the public here. Captain Smitty.
Yes, good afternoon. And once again, thank you for taking my comments here. I would reiterate again that this cap needs major revisions that encompass both the CPVs and all off-boat sales and off-dock sales. These are, there's many issues within this that will need to have further revisions. This definitely needs more time to be studied. I am very willing to be a participant on any kind of a committee in regards to proposed changes, modifications to this in the future. This document can be, the 2019 document I believe could be used for this year as a rubber stamp moving forward through the year 2021, giving the harbor a full year for revisions on this to make sure that everything is done correctly and encompasses all participants within the harbor that need to be included within this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have someone, Nuka, NEWCA, with your hand raised.
Yeah, it's new Captain Pete. I'm one of the charter boats down there. My name's Dennis Baxter. And yeah, just kind of what Smitty said, there's some things in there that just that, you know, there's a little thing in parentheses that says, you know, when applicable. One of the things I'm kind of boggled about is groups of 25. That's shoot, the Salty Lady, and I run pelagic bird trips. Pre-COVID, they all muster by the telephone pole to meet their guide and come down in a group of 30, day in and day out. That's there's just some things that just need kind of scratching my head over, and I need clarification on, because that's just you know, basically I have a 37 person capacity on my boat. So I'm just kind of you know, wondering if this is a COVID thing or, but it's not good verbiage. So yeah, I'm glad to see that there's going to be more time to get things clarified for both the user group and the administration. But yeah, some things just don't look right on that. So that's all.
Great, thank you. James Lee.
Yeah, I just wanted to flag up a couple things in the staff report that stood out to me that I hope will be addressed when this language is reworked. The first thing is the bit about deleting the district's review of charges to patrons every 6 months with the belief that the market will dictate reasonable fees. I think with the way cost of living is rising, particularly in San Mateo County, and with the way working families are being affected with COVID, I think a 6-month review is definitely still necessary for equity concerns. I would strongly urge that language be put back into this document. And the other thing I wanted to flag up was deleting the requirement to seek a mutually acceptable mediator or arbitrator. I understand the rationale behind that is to reduce the burden on staff resources and financial resources from the district, but there's been a long legacy at the Harbor District where friends of board members have gotten these special legacy deals, and there have been issues over favoritism, equal treatment, perceptions of unequal treatment. And these are, again, going back to Commissioner Brennan's work, this is some of the stuff that she's worked to address, even with homophobic fishermen and yawning fellow commissioners. So these are all things that need to be considered in the language of this document for equity concerns. There's been a long history with this district over concerns of inequity, unfairness, and the more effort you take to actually engage with this process and address those concerns in a good way will be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Lorenz.
Yes, thank you. First, I'd like to say to thank Jim for pulling this in a way to get more input on this. I think the member of the public is absolutely correct. This type of of changes in these type of changes in documents really need public input. We should have a committee that addresses it, gives all the stakeholders a chance to comment. So I'd like to see that happen.
Thank you. Commissioner Brennan, you have your hand raised.
Thank you. Yeah, really good comments from everybody so far. Very interesting. I'm wondering if Jim could explain some of the things that were added here, especially regarding the 25 passengers. There's a couple sections, 4.6 mainly. Just some of the more substantial changes, if you could explain what the thinking is behind those changes, that might give us something to work with so that when the public gets more involved, they kind of know where you're going with this.
With respect to the 25 persons, thank you for that question. And Commissioner Brennan, thank you for the opportunity to talk on it. The intent behind that was trying to control the number of people on the ramps and on the dock, not just for social distancing for COVID, but also for any type of emergency response or other users of the dock. With that many people congregating on the dock itself or the ramp, it's hard for other users of that dock to also use that dock in any reasonable fashion. So, but I've heard the comments and concerns by many, and what I'm going to be recommending, I think in the future, again, I'll be working with some of our users, but making a recommendation on that paragraph similar to that the passengers for the charter, the captain is responsible for the passengers and shall ensure the dock and the ramps remain clear or unobstructed by passengers. Words to that effect, and remove the 25 person limit.
I'm wondering, I know that recently we had the fire marshal out to look at Johnson Pier, and this seems like exactly the kind of topic that we would want to get the fire marshal to weigh in on, as far as like safe access is concerned and the amount of traffic on the pier in general, since that's certainly been a safety concern. Is this something that you're going to get their feedback on?
That is a great idea. We will.
Okay. And then as far as like the equity and equality concerns regarding permits, I think that was an interesting point. What's the limit on how many of these permits are even possible at our facility?
Julie, can you remind me what those numbers are?
We have a limit on the uninspected vessels of charter boats of 6 at any one time. There are other charter boat operators that are operating under the Half Moon Bay Sport Fishing. That's the only limit that I'm aware of that we actually reach.
So just so, because I don't really understand this, I want to try to clarify. So you're saying that there can be up to 6 charter boats, but that doesn't include the charter boats that come through the business located at the concessionaire's building. Is that right?
That's correct.
So how many, oh, and you're saying you don't know how many they're limited to, or is it unlimited?
I believe they're limited to 10, but I'd have to double check that.
Okay. And do
Julie
we,
Commissioner Brennan, I want to clarify. Julie, can you differentiate between the inspected and uninspected charter boat?
Yeah, the inspected would allow more than, I believe, 6 passengers.
Correct.
So it's a 6-pack that is the uninspected vessel.
So how many are permitted under a 6-pack, and how many do we permit uninspected or inspected?
Yeah, inspected, I know there's a limit, but we've never reached that limit, so we're not as concerned about, you know, not additional caps being presented under that. as part of the code of ordinances. I would say 10 again, but again, sometimes my memory isn't all it should be, and I can double check on that number also.
Okay.
So we haven't hit the number of larger charter boats in recent history. We do have the limit of uninspected vessels, which are 6 passengers or less.
Oh, okay, got it. That helps me a lot because I was confused about what triggers required inspection versus no inspection, and it's the number of passengers per vessel, correct?
Yes, for our harbor,
That's
yes.
correct. Yeah.
Okay. And currently there's no restrictions on how many people can be on the vessel because of COVID specifically, is there?
No, not specifically, but each boat owner or captain has to make his or her own decision on the number of passengers they carry while maintaining social distancing.
Okay. And there hasn't been any like problem with COVID on charter boats, has there? That we are
I haven't
aware of?
received any report of any COVID exposures on charter boats.
That's good to know. Okay, well, that really helps me at least understand the details of, you know, what you guys are working with these permits. I appreciate the info and look forward to following it as a member of the public in the future. Thank you.
Okay, well, and I just looked up the number for inspected vessels, and it's 16.
Great, thank you, Julie.
Mhm.
Thank you, Julie. I support taking public comment and giving the Harbor District time to revise this for all holders of permits. There are many different entities who hold the cap, and this policy needs to be standardized and made uniform. Jim, can I ask what marine carrier insurance is, and how does workers' comp exist in light of the Jones Act in California?
It's more of the applicability of workman's comp towards vessels and people who work on vessels versus what the Jones Act is a federal law that covers people that work on vessels. And we'll make that very clear on the caps, land-based versus vessel-based insurance requirements.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think we need more discussion about limited caps too, and whether or not off the boat fishtail sales should be considered to be included for the service fee. So, Nuka, new captain, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, again, Dennis Baxter, new Captain Pete, one of the big charter boats down there. So just a question for Mr. Moore and Pruitt. What's the best way for the charter boats to give you input? Personal, I mean, would you like a list of, I'm sure you got an earful from Captain Smitty expressing our major concerns, but what's the easiest, what's the best way for you guys to hear what we have to say?
Captain, you can send me an email. My email's on the website, or you can give me a call. And I'll be reaching out to you independently also, seeking your input.
Okay, good deal. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Captain Smitty, you have your hand raised.
Yes, thank you once again for allowing me to speak. In regards to the 25 passengers, generally our passengers filter down in smaller groups of 2 to 6 during our fishing season and for our whale watching and also for my funerals. So it's not that we have huge congregations of people on the dock, unlike the off-boat sales, which can have huge lines of 40, 60 people clogging up the docks. And as far as the permits goes, the CPVs have 16 permits, 8 of which are owned by the HMB shop. And this was limited back in the 80s, because at that time there were 16 CPVs that were working out of the harbor, and that has dwindled because of the allowing of the uninspected vessels to start carrying passengers, and the bootlegging of passengers has reduced our capacity within the harbor. It has reduced capacity in many harbors. We are, in regards to the COVID regulations with us, we have all been reduced in our capacities on board the boat by virtue of one aspect of that is the 6-foot spacing. So I have gone from normally being able to carry 20 passengers down to 10 because of the 6-foot spacing on those. And again, to reiterate what Dennis was saying, that I would be very interested in having more input on what's being done with this commercial activity permit. I've been operating in the harbor for a very long time and have been through the whole process. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Captain Do 78, you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. Sorry, I stepped away thinking this agenda number was going to be put off to the future, and was just notified that it was being discussed. So I'm on my phone and driving, but I do have concerns in different areas of what I've read that's being proposed. One of them is the insurance on vehicles, and the other is escorting passengers. Those are two things that I remember I had everything highlighted at home I wanted to discuss, but unfortunately, I don't have it in front of me right now. So, I mean, escorting passengers back and forth to the boat is not really something that is easily accomplished. By passengers may show up 1 or 2 at a time at different times, may want to walk back for something they forgot in their car. It's not like I can be holding their hand everywhere they go in the harbor. That just doesn't work. And as far as insurance for vehicles, I don't know that my auto insurance policy would want to do that, or that my marine insurance policy would want to do that. I'd have to contact them and find out if it's even feasible. But I don't understand why we should be carrying extra insurance for that when there are thousands of people that come to the harbor all the time for buying fish or sightseeing or whatever, and I don't see any special provision for them. So why are we different? Those are two of my big concerns, and I would like to be contacted in the future for further discussion on this issue. I'm hoping it isn't passed through today and that we have some time to make some revisions to make it something that we can accomplish. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Commissioner Chen Crawley?
Just a quick question. I can't remember who just spoke, but about passengers and all of that. I know that charter boats have like these passenger fees that we've discussed before. Are they the only businesses within the harbor that have passenger service, I guess, passenger service fees?
Under our cap structure right now, yes, they're the only ones who pay a passenger service fee.
Okay, so is this going to be looked at also if we're talking about equity in terms of the tenants who work with us?
Yes, it's part of the cap, so it'll be considered and looked at.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Captain Smitty?
Yes, the CPVs are the only ones that have to pay the per passenger harbor ticket fee. And these fees were instituted into the harbor back in the 90s in regards to, because at that time, the CPVs represented the major amount of the public that was traversing up and down Johnson Pier. And that was before there was the off-boat and off-dock sales. now that there is both the off-dock sales and off-boat sales, the percentage of our passengers that traverse the dock is less than 5% of that of the people that go up and down the dock. These harbor ticket fees that we pay, the $2.41 per passenger that get on our boat, I view as a tariff that's unfairly placed now upon the CPVs, and that we are being unjustly singled out while there are many other stakeholders in the harbor that have much more of a tremendous usage and wear and tear on the facilities, the toilet paper, the paper towels, so on and so forth, that are not being held accountable for, but yet we are being charged this based on what was going on back in the late 80s, early 90s in the harbor. This is part of what needs to be addressed under the cap and the changes that need to be dealt with that as well. Also, the auto insurance companies cannot add, a lot of auto companies cannot add the San Mateo County Harbor District as an additional insured. The maximum, most cars have maximum liability coverage of $500,000. And to extend that liability policy to that additional liability coverage would basically double everybody's rates. And the other part of this is, does this then cover every slip holder required to carry 1 million? Will buyers off boat sales have that? Will each forklift have to have that? And I'll stop there.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Brennan?
Yeah, hi. There are a lot of concerns. They've been coming up for years. I certainly have gotten many phone calls from Commissioner Matoush over the years on this topic. Felt pressure from him to reduce the fees. I know he's concerned about it. I do think he should have recused himself immediately at the beginning of this item and not commented first, but be that as it may, I think our staff needs to think holistically about this problem. And we also need to remember that Johnson Pier is in need of replacement. I mean, we're talking major renovation needed. We have a big problem with wastewater coming off the pier. It's not big enough to handle the amount of use it's getting. We've got lawsuits that are costing the district hundreds of thousands of dollars. We've got safety concerns and whatnot. So
does it relate to the agenda item, Commissioner Brennan?
It is, and it's not your job to ask me that question.
Actually, it is, Commissioner Brennan, and I'd like to, we do have a motion and a second on the table for this item, and we've had
I'd like to complete my comment.
At this point that you are veering far afield, and
I would like to complete my comment, and I think you will find that it is on topic. And I think you'll also find that it is important. So I'm asking staff that going forward, when considering permitting and fees for permits, and this applies to all of our permitting and particularly what we're on the agenda for today, which is the passenger services fees and the permit. We need to think about how we do it equitably and fairly across the board, across all of the different permitting that we do. And so to piecemeal it and to just look at this permitting without also considering the other types of permitting that we do, such as events and so forth, it's not taking a holistic approach to it. So I think we have to, balance the cost of the facility, the wear and tear, where it's fair to charge, where it's not, and then also look at where we're charging for other permitting fees. So I hope that happens going forward. It sounds like that's what staff's going to do. And then very quickly, I want to mention that it was just announced that the Bay Area falls to a 12.9 ICU capacity, triggering a stay-at-home order across all regions. That means that now outdoor dining is prohibited. It'll be takeout only. And
All
I'm
right, we're
wondering,
gonna move
I'm
on
wondering
with
if
this,
staff
agenda
can
item.
clarify how this will
So
impact.
Melanie, we
proceeds.
have a motion and a second on the table for this agenda item, and can you please do roll call?
Commissioner Raring,
Aye.
Commissioner Jane Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush, Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
Commissioner Brennan.
I don't think we need to vote on tabling anything, so I'm going to abstain from voting.
Great, the motion carries then.
The motion does carry. We're going to move now to commissioner comments. Commissioners can make public statements limited to 2 minutes. This is our last meeting of 2020, and I want to acknowledge that this is Commissioner Brennan's last night, our last meeting. And I'd like to congratulate our newly elected commissioners, both Virginia Jane Crowley and Tom Mathush, who will continue to serve on the board. And we will be welcoming Commissioner-elect Bill Zemke from our newly established District 5. Welcome, everybody. We need to wait for a minute to get Tom back in the meeting. Lizzie, can you let him in?
Yes, Commissioner Raring, please give me a moment.
If I could break in for just a minute during this pause, on behalf of the San Mateo County Harbor District operations, I would like to wish Commissioner Brennan Godspeed in her future endeavors, and we certainly appreciate everything that you, Commissioner Brennan, have done for operations, all of your support with operations training and rescue equipment purchasing, etc. Operations certainly appreciates everything you've done over the last 8 years, and I definitely have appreciated everything you've done over the last 5 years I've been here. Thank you.
Commissioner Brennan?
I'm unmuting. Thank you, John. That really means a lot to me. I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Commissioner Lorenz?
Thank you. I'm going to make this a little bit more of a personal note, but first I'd like to just say once again to you, Nancy, that the editorial comments really shouldn't be in this meeting. Just if you're going to allow yourself editorial comments, you should allow everyone to have them. So Sabrina, I've worked with you over the past, 4 years on this. Can't really remember the count. I appreciate everything you've done. I know that you and I have worked very hard together on some of these things, and we've had knockdown, drag out fights. And I very much appreciate the fact that when we had these big disagreements, it was never personal. It was always about the issues. I would expect the rest of the board to behave that way too, because it hasn't been that way. They've made it personal. And I know you've weathered the attacks, the personal attacks very well. And I commend you for it. And I've been in the meetings with John and the rest of the staff where you have spent a good deal of time working with all of us trying to come up with ideas. And one thing that you've always shown yourself to be is completely creative on these projects. And the Surfers Beach project, as John mentioned, was one of them. When we sat down for that meeting with the city, you commented, wait a minute, shouldn't we rethink this and take this as an opportunity to really look at a new way of doing this, not just put bathrooms there. And as a result, what I think we have is a really great project. You've done that all along. The other thing I'd like to say is to our fishing community, both recreational and especially the commercial. You've been a tireless advocate for them, and I know they appreciate it. And I just want to say to the public that a lot of the work that you don't see is Sabrina Brennan talking to fishermen, trying to find out what their perspectives are on their needs, and then bringing them to the board as best as possible. And I really appreciate that you've done that. And I learned that from you, that it's really important to talk to our constituents. And once again, thank you for all your hard work.
I would like to also thank Sabrina. It's been a pleasure working with you over the last 2 years. And I hope the very best for you and whatever you decide to do in the future. And thank you for supporting the administrative staff during that time too.
John Olam? This is commissioner comments, not public comments. So sorry, guys. Commissioner Matoush.
Well, we've been having a successful recreational crab season. The commercials are looking forward to open. I've been sitting on the Dungeness Crab Task Force Whale Entanglement Group, trying to provide input so that we can all enjoy a good, safe season. I did don my Santa Aloha shirt and my little Santa hat. We're close to the holidays. And I just want to wish everyone safe and happy holidays, Merry Christmas. And I look forward to working with everyone in 2021.
Thank you, Commissioner Matoush. Feeling is mutual. Commissioner Chang Corrali.
Thank you. I want to thank the staff as well for the hard work they've done, especially with, I want to especially thank Jim because he's, he came into the Harbor District in a very, very difficult situation, a very difficult time with COVID and also the CZU lightning fire. So thank you, Jim, and thank you to the staff for all the hard work that you've done in 2020 under unimaginable circumstances. I really want to save my comments, right, or save my comments right now to really commend Nancy and her leadership. It has not been easy for her to be the president of this board in the last year during a time when we had to change how we conducted our meetings and, where she's weathered outbreaks that were pretty embarrassing for the Harbor District. But Nancy, you led this board with a lot of grace and with a lot of ethical commitment, with a lot of transparency. And I'm sure that there are a few people who would disagree with that, but just rest assured that most people appreciate your leadership and your commitment to good government. This has not been easy for you, and I know how hard you have worked to make sure that everyone has been heard, even though you've been insulted. You weathered all of that with grace, like I said. So thank you for your leadership and your partnership in trying to get things done with other agencies as well. Thank you, thank you. And with that, I would like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting on a high note. Is there a second?
Do I have a second?
If I could, President Ryring, make a general manager's report real quick.
Yeah.
Would that be okay, President Ryring?
Sure. So
right before this meeting began, the state has ordered San Mateo County into stay-at-home orders with the rest of the state. So the entire Bay Area is now under the stay-at-home orders. It becomes effective for us tomorrow night. So that will limit the number of type of dining we can do at the harbor. But I just want to kind of reemphasize our plan for that harbor so people listening to this meeting know about it and or can listen to it later. The district has already taken a lot of steps to protect both the staff and the public against the spread of COVID since March. And we've beefed it up over the months. So it's a pretty strong program. We continue with the bathroom cleanings. We continue with the social distancing, the mask wearing, and we plan on continuing doing that. We're already at the level of kind of the stay-at-home level for the harbor in its operations. Harbor operations are essential business, with fishing being one of the top, and the governor encouraging fishing for recreational fishing to continue. So I do not, right now, unless things change or get ordered by the county or state, recommending to the board that we make any changes to the harbor once we go into that tier tomorrow night, because I think we already are set at a standard that meets what we need to be doing to protect the public and the crew as we carry out our essential tasks of fishing and recreation on the waterfront.
Thank you, Jim. Commissioner Chang Crowley?
I did make that motion to adjourn after, and I'm still going to make that motion right now after the general manager's comments. Thank you, Jim, for those.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I didn't get an opportunity to make a commissioner comment.
We have a motion.
I asked for a second on this motion. If
We had a second.
you second? All right, great. Commissioner Brennan, your comment?
Thank you. I wanted to thank members of the public who had really very nice things to say on my outgoing meeting, and also thank the staff, Julie and John, for their comments. It definitely means a lot. And I want to thank Commissioner Lorenas. So thank you. It's been a privilege to serve with all of you. I really appreciate your support and the nice words. It means a lot. Going forward, I'm sure you'll see me occasionally, and I'll chime in, if I think it's needed. I hope the district continues on a positive path and projects continue to go as they are and we get things done. I'm going to provide the general manager with sort of a rundown on things that have been achieved in the past 8 years, and I hope that he will attach that to the meeting items on the website. So Jim, I hope you'll include that information, under the agenda or whatever else is attached. Because when I started writing up a list, it was too much to even try to talk about in 2 minutes. There's no way I could do it. But again, I do want to just mention that, if it weren't for Sion Molosky, I wouldn't have run for a seat on the board. Thank you.
Melanie, can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Chang Crowley,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenas,
No. And the reason for no is because we have 2 items, the general manager report and the operations report, which were on the end of the agenda, and it would have been, I had questions for them, and those items are an opportunity for the public to hear. I know it's in the package, but it gives them an opportunity to tell us some of the very important work that they've done. And thank you, Jim, for chiming in and at least giving us that report.
should I continue,
Yes,
Commissioner Ryring?
yes, please.
Commissioner Brennan,
I'm going to vote no in support of Commissioner Lorenas's concerns.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye. Is that everybody? The motion carries. And we'll see you in 2021, everyone.